All right, let's dive right into one of the most critical rivalries shaping our world today. We're not talking about a traditional war with soldiers and tanks, but a silent, strategic conflict happening right now between the United States and China.
This quote just nails it. It perfectly captures the tension of our era, doesn't it? This feeling of a constant, low level conflict that's humming just below the surface of our everyday lives.
So, that brings us to the big question we're tackling in this explainer. Are we just watching history repeat itself? Are we stumbling into a new Cold War? Or is this something else entirely, something maybe far more complex? Okay, to answer that, we really need to break down the three critical battlegrounds where this whole rivalry is playing out. And we're going to start with the most traditional one, pure, old-fashioned military power. Just look at how much the very idea of a battlefield has changed. The first Cold War, that was all about nuclear bombs and incredibly bloody proxy wars. But today's rivalry, it is so much more subtle. It's fought in what they call the gray zone, using things like cyber attacks or economic pressure to get ahead, all while stopping just short of an open shooting war. And here's a look at how each side is playing its cards. The US strategy? Well, it's to stay number one, to maintain the most powerful military on the planet and to double down on its global alliances. China, on the other hand, is moving fast, modernizing its military and really trying to establish clear dominance in its own backyard, especially in the South China Sea, which is a direct challenge to American influence in the region. And this quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The goal here isn't necessarily to win a shooting war. It's to win the war of influence without ever having to fire a shot. Okay, let's move on to our second battleground. And folks, this is where the rivalry gets white hot, because this is the arena that is going to define the rest of the 21st century. Technology. Think about it like this. If the 20th century was defined by the race to build the biggest bomb, the 21st century is all about the race to build the smartest algorithm. We have literally shifted from a nuclear arms race to a technological one, and it's all centered on AI, semiconductors, and who controls the world's data. Now, the US has a bit of a head start, with giants like Google and NVIDIA leading the way in AI and chip design. But China is pouring billions into its own tech titans, like Huawei, and they're aiming for total self-reliance and, eventually, global leadership. And the stakes? They could not be higher, because whoever masters AI could gain a decisive advantage in, well, everything, from future warfare to the entire global economy. So let's be absolutely clear about what this is. You see the export bans on advanced chips, the desperate race for self-sufficiency. This isn't just friendly market competition. It is, without a doubt, a full-blown technological arms race. And that brings us to the third and final piece of this puzzle, the global competition for economic and diplomatic influence. Back in the original Cold War, the world was pretty much split down the middle. You had to pick a side: capitalism or communism. The lines were clear. But today, the division is much less about ideology and a whole lot more about economics. It's a choice between different models of investment and global partnership. You can actually see each side's playbook in action right here. China's using its massive Belt and Road Initiative, building ports, railways, you name it, to create economic ties across continents. And the US response? It's to strengthen alliances like the Quad with India, Japan, and Australia to create a strategic counterweight. So, okay, we've got a competition in power, in technology, and in influence. It's starting to sound a lot like a Cold War, right? Well, hold on. This is where the whole story takes a very sharp, very unexpected turn. Let's talk about the great paradox of this rivalry. So what's the big twist? What is the one single factor that makes this conflict completely different from anything we've ever seen before? The one thing that complicates every single move and raises the stakes for the entire world. The answer comes down to these two words: economic interdependence. You see, the US and the Soviet Union, they were like two separate planets, economically speaking. But the US and China, they are deeply, fundamentally tangled together. Just let that sink in for a second. They are strategic rivals, locked in a competition for global dominance. But at the exact same time, their economies are completely linked. One can't really thrive without the other. And that creates an incredibly unstable and, frankly, unpredictable situation. And this chart, it says it all, doesn't it? The economic relationship between the US and the Soviets was minimal. They could basically ignore each other. But the US and China are in a totally different boat. Their economies are so deeply connected that a clean break is, for all practical purposes, impossible.
So after looking at all the evidence, the power plays, the tech race, and this wild economic paradox, let's circle back to our original question and try to put a name on what's happening. So, is this a new Cold War? You know, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's way more accurate to say we are entering a hybrid Cold War, one where intense geopolitical rivalry, a high-stakes tech race, and deep economic codependence are all tangled up together. And this war isn't going to be fought with tanks and trenches. No, the new battlefields of the 21st century are the ones you see right here. They're our data centers, our stock markets, and the digital networks that connect the entire planet. And this is probably the most crucial thing to understand. Unlike the first Cold War, which felt pretty distant for a lot of people, this hybrid Cold War is everywhere. It affects the phone in your pocket, the supply chains for your food, and the economic stability of the entire globe. We are all on the battlefield, whether we realize it or not. Which leaves us with one last really profound thought. Maybe the question we should be asking isn't just who's going to win. Maybe the real question is, as this strange new conflict unfolds, how is it going to fundamentally reshape our shared future?